Welcome to episode 11 of the Sourcing Challenge Show. I'm your host, Mark Lundgren. In this week's episode, I sat down with Damien Hié-Coloby from Hitch in France and asked him how he got into sourcing, the state of sourcing in France, and of course, what he will be talking about at SourceCon in Budapest. Ask Damien how he got into sourcing.
So actually, I've been in the recruitment field since pretty much 8 years.
Mhm.
So, oh gosh, it's been quite a few times. But at the very beginning, so I wasn't really meant for sourcing. So I did a little bit of studies, mixing communication, computer science, and other stuff.
Mhm.
And after that, I did an internship as a PHP developer, but it wasn't very successful.
Okay.
To be honest. So I decided to shift totally my career, and a little bit randomly, I fell into recruitment. And at the very beginning, it was I was working for agencies and consultancy companies. So it wasn't really sourcing for real. It was more digging into like job board databases and stuff like that. But it was the basics of like Boolean searches and stuff like that. So it was quite interesting, but not not very much sourcing like I know sourcing at the moment. And after I think it was 2 years, so I decided I wanted to move for an in-house job because I felt it meant more sense to me. Working for my teams and recruiting people for companies and products I really believed in. So that's the reason why I decided to move to a different kind of industry. So my first in-house job was in I think it was in consumer electronics.
Okay.
Because I really like tech, and that's the reason why I'm still doing technical recruitment. And so I went for a French company which is called Sagemcom, and which was still doing communication devices. And it was really fascinating, really interesting, really technical, and we were able to compete with like Asian companies in consumer electronics, which was really something that I really enjoyed working with the engineers that were really passionate about their product, and that's something I was really looking for, and that's how I started really sourcing. Because when you are looking for profiles that are really difficult to find, especially when you are looking for like embedded software engineers working with Linux, for example, and in France, it was like
they're not going to be on the job boards, that's for sure.
And the fact is, I used to work with people that didn't know about sourcing, and so we used that old-fashioned way to recruit, so posting and praying, and obviously for that kind of profile, it didn't work.
No.
So it didn't work, and I decided that we couldn't have such bad results. So that's the time I decided to dig deeper into sourcing. And so I found really interesting articles, really interesting blogs in English. At that time, it was I think Boolean Black Belts. And so that's how I got into sourcing. And I found a really interesting community in the US, and it was the very beginning in France, and that's the very beginning of my sourcing history, I would say. And so that's pretty much it. And after that, so I started training myself, reading a lot of blogs, listening also to YouTube videos from SourceCon, for example, but not only. And maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was a kind of the creation of the sourcing community in France, and that's motivated me also to continue learning, keep progressing, and learning interesting techniques. Because I think one of the things that is really interesting to me in sourcing is the fact that you can get really technical. And from the beginning, I really love technique. I like to dig deeper into technical stuff. So yeah.
Okay. What's the sourcing community in France look like today then?
So it started a couple of years ago, and you've got really passionate people such as Guillaume Alexandre, for example, but also I think there's a company which is called Link Humans. So
Yeah.
there's a Link Human in the UK, I believe, but there's also a Link Human in France, and they are the one who managed to shake a little bit the recruitment industry in France and to promote sourcing and build up the sourcing, the true events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I think we've got a Slack at the moment, which is called Recruiter's Kitchen, and I think we are more than 700 at the moment.
Oh wow, that's good.
Which is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good. I wasn't expecting that, but actually that's good for the job, because I think a couple of years ago sourcing was not really recognized in France, and recruitment was not really recognized as well. And that kind of communities, that kind of events, it really benefits to the community and to the job. So I hope it will get bigger and bigger, and that we'll be able to make people enjoy and embrace careers in the sourcing world.
Yeah.
Because what I realized when I was first starting sourcing and discussing with people is the fact that like myself, they were not meant for that. So you fell into sourcing and recruitment a little bit randomly, but you finally you managed to love it. But I really want to have people that decide to be a recruiter, like in their studies and stuff.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I see that. I've worked with some French sources as well in the UK, and like nobody's chosen that career, but a lot of them as well is like they're not sure they could go back to France and kind of do that kind of job. It's more of a we'll do it for some years in the UK and then maybe go back to France, but then hoping more for a HR based role than a recruitment based role, because it's more that kind of entry level into HR rather than somebody that really wants to stick around in recruitment and have that as a career.
Yeah, recruitment is and sourcing is often seen as a second class citizen, and that's a shame, because if you do it properly and if your company has the right mindset, it can bring so much values. Curriculum is really strategic, and I can see that in my current companies. So after a few years in very big companies, I decided to switch to a startup, so even more technical, but in a very small company, and I can feel the impact we can have, and also the will of the company to put a lot of effort. It's not only the co-founders, but it's also all the people working with us in the hiring team to make it happen, and thanks to that, we are able to grasp a lot of knowledge about the culture in the company, but also about all the technical things we wouldn't have learned, I would say, in a normal company, in a traditional company. And that really helps us find the very best profile we need for the company to grow.
And also, I mean, when you're a new company, it's you don't quite have a brand yet that you can, you don't have that recognition of, okay, we know, everybody knows what an Alcatel is, everybody like Microsoft and, that kind of thing. You can go a lot, you're going to get a lot of people who know who you are. You have to go out there and tell the story and get people excited about that.
Yeah, and that's also a reason why I decided to move in-house, because moving in-house, I had to choose the company I wanted to work for. And so I had to pick up companies that for which I really believed in the product, or I really believed in the company organization. And that's what I'm experiencing at the moment. And it really helps you selling the companies, selling the way the people are working, how passionate they are. And I think it's fundamental when you do sourcing.
That's good. And where do you look for people in France? And is it the usual suspects where everybody else in the world looks, or do you have kind of special things that you need to do to find the francophones?
Not really special things in France. To be honest, the change I have in my company at Hitch is that I'm working with a fully distributed team.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working currently in a co-working space. My team, my technical team, our engineers are working remotely from France, but also from other countries.
Oh, cool.
So we've got people working in the UK, people working in the it's mainly Europe based.
Yeah.
So we've got people working in Spain, working from France, and mostly working from home.
Okay.
So we don't have the constraint to recruit only in France.
Yeah.
So we can be really picky and recruit people from other countries if it makes sense.
Yeah.
So and from a sourcing point of view, it really helps. Looking for people in a very broad way, and so I can use obviously LinkedIn, but I use LinkedIn way less than I used to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you're looking for a very, very excellent people, you need to find them where they are.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that every technical recruiter are sourcing people on GitHub, for example, on Stack Overflow, and all that kind of platforms where developers are spending their days on.
Yeah.
But according to me, that's not the only way to find developers, because a lot of them are more and more undercover, I would say, because they are getting harassed by recruiters because it's a very difficult market, and I can understand them. So I'm in touch with all the team, and I ask them to send me the emails they receive from the recruiters, and sometimes it's
that's appalling. Yeah.
I wouldn't talk about that, but it's not the right way. But it also motivates me to do the things better. And if you do things in the right way, you can really have an impact, and developers can see that sometimes they can find I would say good recruiters, good sourcers, and they can see that it's not a crappy job, and that really matters to me. So what I usually do is reach out to people through the platforms they are usually using. But what I really like, because we are really looking for people that are it's very difficult to find the developers we're looking for at Hitch, because we are looking for a tech stack that is really difficult to find, really new technologies.
Okay.
So
what kind of tech are you working on then?
So our tech stack is based on the backend side. It's based on Golang, for example, Golang and Elixir. So we use a little bit of Ruby, but that's something we are willing to replace by Elixir. And those languages are not really well spread. I mean, so developers are really in love with those languages, but very few companies are using them, especially in Europe. That's something that you can find in the US, but as we are recruiting mainly in Europe, that's very difficult to find senior developers with like 2 or 3 years of experience.
Yeah, exactly. You're not.
It's barely impossible.
It's going to be something they've done in their spare time because they wanted to, rather than something they've actually worked on in a production environment.
Yeah. And I can understand the companies that want to rely on like reliable technologies that the companies have been using for years. But at some point, it's also interesting to challenge yourself and to try new things. And that's what we want to do at Hitch. And that's the reason why 3 years ago we switched from like a monolith architecture to a microservices architecture, and we decided to train the entire team to Golang and to Elixir. So that's something amazing, and usually the candidates really like that.
It's a good story. I mean, that's always what I say. Like, no matter what size of the company you have, your employment brand doesn't mean anything unless you have a good story. So it is like whether people know where you, especially with developers, if you in your outreach to them and when you talk to them can tell them the story that makes sense for them professionally, that's that's where you can hire them. And yeah, working with the newest technologies and actually, splitting up a monolith architecture into microservices using a language like Golang. That's the story that a developer is like, hold on, that's fun. I can do my job anywhere, but if I can do it like this, that's just going to make it more fun to do it.
Totally, and it also shows the mindset the company has. I talked to a lot of developers that were working in companies that were really driven by the business and the marketing. And at some point, when the marketing says, "No, you will not try this technology," or because it's a threat for the business, for example. I can feel the frustration of developers, and what I really loved in the stories in my company is that they had a vision that if they didn't make the move towards those technologies, they would have died. And that helped a lot the people to embrace that culture of risk and to say, let's move forward and try that. That's a bit of a bet, but that's a very practical one and a very a very practical one, and so let's move forward and try. And the result was really awesome. So
and it's a proactive approach. You're doing it now rather than waiting until the legacy technology is obsolete and then having to do it.
That's very very. It's not moving to from a technology to another. For the sake of it,
no.
But you measure the risk, you measure also the benefits you can have, and then with that pragmatical approach, you move forward.
In terms of tools, what kind of tools do you like working with, and do you have any kind of favorites in that?
So we don't really. So I'm working with Clément, who is my colleague, and we don't really want to rely on just one tool.
Yeah.
So we'd like to. We really like to try every kind of tool we can use. And obviously, we were using LinkedIn as a e-recruiter. I would say that's pretty basic. But we really wanted to try those tools that are able to gather a lot of information because data is the key to create like quality outreaches and stuff like that. So we decided to try Amazing Hiring. A couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, and actually that's a pretty good tool.
Especially for tech, because they kind of go, they go to GitHub, they go to Bitbucket, they're gonna drag in what meetup groups they're in, and all of that, like things that as a sourcer you would do, but doing it one after the other takes so much time.
That's the purpose of it, and it's an absolute time saver, and that's very valuable because with the time you saved on searching and digging into information, you can spend more time in finding more profiles or in like crafting the best message you can craft, and that's something that is part of our motto in the team is. We don't have metrics around the quantity, but better metrics about the quality. And it doesn't matter if at the end of the day you didn't have sent like 20 outreaches. The goal is to have a better reply rate. That's something that is important. But also, we truly believe that being a sourcer and reaching out to people that way is also the first way to improve your employment branding. Because if you send good outreaches and maybe you don't know, maybe people will spread the word that I'm not looking for a job at the moment, but I really like the approach that the recruiter had, and maybe I can talk to someone about that.
Or in a year or 2 years, they might be right now the timing isn't there. They think you're an interesting company, but it's just not the right time for them. But us keeping up that message that they know what we're doing, they might start following us on different sites and that kind of thing. And then one might recommend a friend of theirs. And when they're ready, or if something changes in their life, then we're like, you know what? I remember that company. Let me reach back out to them. I have an email somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, we managed to recruit some people thanks to that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. But I think what I like the most is when you've got a really complicated job to fill, is to start from scratch and to dig into the databases.
Yeah.
I think we are as a recruiter, we tend to target the same kind of companies, the same companies every time, and I really like the work to start from scratch, pick up databases such as I don't know AngelList, Crunchbase, or those databases, and say, okay, I'm looking for that kind of skills. Those skills may be in that kind of companies. Let me find the list of the companies dealing with that kind of topics, that kind of fields, and so on, and maybe find new companies. And then by crossing information, you can find people you would not have found by a Boolean search, for example.
Yeah.
Because probably in their profile they don't have the right keywords. Probably they don't have any profiles, and that's the kind of thing I really like to do. And yeah, we are trying to be better at that.
That's what I do with Amazing Hiring as well. Like my searches are always based on skills first. And then see what I get from there, and look at that. And because they give you so much information, well, it's like, okay, these are some of the best developers in that language. I don't really care where they work now, but let me take it from there. So that is purely based on especially when you're looking at Golang and things like that. Have they done it before, and to what level? And and then you start finding different things. Okay, that company is working with that technology as well. Let me look more into that. But I wouldn't have known that if I'd just gone for the same 20 companies every time.
Yeah, sure.
Damien, if people want to follow you and keep up to date what you're doing, where can they best do that?
So I've got a LinkedIn profile, but as I said, I'm not really active on LinkedIn. But I'm usually active on Twitter. So if I'm not tweeting, I'm following and stalking people. That's what I do. And so my Twitter is _Damien.
Okay, perfect. Look, thank you very much. I look very much forward to meeting you in Budapest.
I was very pleased to be with you this half an hour, and yeah, of course. So we'll saw each other at SourceCon, and it's gonna be fun.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks, Damien.
Cheers.
All right. See ya. Thank you all for watching. If you want to be one of the first ones to know about new episodes coming out, make sure to subscribe to this channel.